So we'll talk about feed in a little bit, but I guess I still am obsessed with recipes that go viral and why they go viral.
Julie Resnick, we're so excited. Welcome back to the farm.
Thanks for having me.
So we want to talk about a few things today. We want to talk about origin story of feed. And I remember me, you, and Amanda having a conversation on
a
wagon.
wagon. Yep. Right, literally right there.
Do you still have that wagon?
Yeah,
right
we do.
There.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
There it is.
It's
Okay.
the covered wagon.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about this amazing business you created and this community that you created and how it started in a thought exercise in Amagansett, but that this community came together and then what has become today is phenomenal. Kids and food.
Yep.
Your kids grew up on farms, CSA, what it means to be a member of a community-supported agriculture program. You're have been a member of two,
Yep.
but a member of ours and Quail Hills by proxy this summer. And what you like to cook right now, what's going on.
Sounds great.
Amanda, what do you want to talk about today?
Well, I want to open with, I guess, kind of like a personal story of the first most vivid memory that I have of Julie was you and I were in the chicken coop on that side of the farm, and we knew Julie from our Quail Hill days, and Julie came over and said, "Hey guys, so I'm pregnant." And I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to harvest my food at Quail Hill by late summer. And so I'm going to do both shares, but is that crazy? And can I do your CSA and Quail Hill CSA? We're like, yeah, absolutely. And to me, that is what started kind of this incredible friendship that we've had for all of these years, because how old is Vance?
He's about to be 14.
Yeah, so 14 years ago. And so that is so I just wanted to kind of open with that. And so that summer you then had two CSA shares, and I think probably for many other summers.
For many years after that.
You had two shares. So how do you, so for people who struggle to kind of get through a single box, how are you doing it?
I think you have to just look at the box and think about what kinds of food your family likes to eat. Like, I have 3 kids and they love Italian food. They love pasta. They love, like last night I actually made bolognese, and I went into Amber Waves Market and I thought, oh, I should get some of your tomatoes, but I think you've sold out of last year's canned tomatoes, but you had the roasted cherry tomatoes.
Yes,
So
which
I
is
got-
one of my favorite things that
Yep.
we make anyway, yeah.
So I got 2 of those jars, and then I had some tomato paste, and then I got a jar of canned tomatoes, and I kind of mixed that together and made a nice bolognese. But
that was
zucchini.
veg-based or meat-based?
No, meat, well, 2, because May's a vegetarian, so I always have to do 2.
Okay.
So I had the tofu and then beef. And I'm very careful. I keep her spoon here and the beef spoon here, so it's like running a kosher kitchen, except for it's just for like vegetarian and like meat lovers.
I think that happens in a lot of families for
Yeah.
a variety of reasons, if it's allergies or preference or whatever. So
Yeah.
it's like 2 simultaneous dishes going on at the same time. So, yeah.
And then last summer, so we'll talk about feed in a little bit, but I guess I still am obsessed with recipes that go viral and why they go viral. So probably 1 or 2 years ago, there was this Meghan Markle recipe, and I don't know if you're familiar with it, with zucchini. And she did this melted zucchini. And I thought, this is interesting, like a Meghan Markle recipe, and it's just basically zucchini. You thinly slice it, like I'm talking, go through as many zucchini as you can find around. You thinly slice it.
How thinly, like a mandolin?
Like so
Yeah,
paper
I don't
thin?
use a mandolin, but very thin, like, just a thin little sliver.
Okay.
And sometimes I'll add a few sliced onions or garlic if the garlic is here, and but mostly zucchini. So like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and you slowly cook it for like an hour, and it just melts into this like delicious, creamy, slightly caramelized mush, which it's not pretty at all. But I will try to like dress it up with some like lemon zest, or I add in from Jason from L&W Market. I love the smoked feta, so I sprinkle that on like everything. And anyway, so Vance will eat like gaping, like huge piles of
How
this
are
melted
you?
zucchini.
How are you serving it? Just like that?
You can serve it like that. But last week what I did is I decided to, I did a cheat. I do like cheats all the time. So you're like, how do you get through all these vegetables but also feed your kid and run a company and try to like work out and meet my friends and do all these things. So I thought, okay, I'm having all these people over for dinner. I'm gonna make the melted zucchini, and I got a big Dutch oven out, and I started that. But I said to Chloe, can you pick up 2 rotisserie chickens from Amber Waves? So she got the roasted chickens that you guys have here. She brought them home. I just quickly cut them into pieces. And then after the melted zucchini was finished, I put the roasted chicken pieces on top, put the lid on, turned it down to like 1. And then when everyone got there, it's like I already had my salad and a few other dishes, and it was like the most delicious dinner. So the zucchini was just like under the chicken.
A bed.
A bed of, and so then I just served it on everyone's
And the
plate.
chicken was already cooked, so you're warming it.
Yeah, I just
essentially.
warmed it up. So that was like an
And then
easy
you
cheat.
serve in what you
Yep.
cook in, and then you can enjoy your guests and have fun.
Yep.
I think it's such a great way to get through zucchini because it can be an overwhelming time if you find yourself saddled with
Right,
zucchini,
and you're
whether
like,
it's from
you're
your
not
garden
making
or
zucchini
CSA.
bread every day.
You're not, no.
You can't get, or pancakes, or all of the other ways.
Okay,
in which
but
we
let's
try.
go with this for a second. Zucchini bread, zucchini pancakes. Name 5 other things when you're like,
fritters, well, like how they have it at Nick and Tony's. Like my kids do
the
love
chips.
the
Yeah.
chips,
Oh my
but it's
God.
like again, like who has time for that? You don't want to be frying batches and batches and batches. And Chloe had an incident years ago making those with the mandolin, so I'm always like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why we're not
oh
using
boy, we've
mandolin.
all had
Yeah.
a little mandolin
Yeah.
action.
I've
Yeah.
watched Katie take the huge part of her finger off of that.
And promptly reattach it.
Put it right back on.
Without going to the walk-in.
Yeah,
That's
just
a-
put it-
those
put
were
it right
farmer
back on.
times.
Zucchini boats, that's another.
What's a zucchini
you-
boat?
So you can cut the zucchini in half, and then you use basically like a melon baller to scoop the middles out, and then you can cook them. You can either steam them or put them in the oven. I usually steam them. And then say you make like a meat sauce, or like in my case also a tofu or some kind of like tempeh, and then you can like use it as a vessel to put the meat and maybe serve it with like over a bed of rice.
Okay, and
And like
size-wise,
some
are
kind
you
of a
choosing a
drizzle.
larger one, a medium-sized one?
Probably with a
Medium.
boat I would go with this.
Yeah, look at this challenge we gave somebody today. Look, what would you do with this? Bread.
Yeah, probably a zucchini bread.
Okay. What would you do with this?
Oh,
Bread, but you could do it on the grill. I think depends on how
Yeah.
you slice it when it's that size.
grating zucchini. So I would grate it for zucchini bread, but I also, again, like quick cheat, say I'm making pasta, especially for like picky kids. Sometimes when my kids have friends over and they don't like eating vegetables, I'm like kind of, I don't want to say mean by sneaking in vegetables, but you can just thinly grate zucchini on a grater and put it into a marinara sauce, and no child would ever know it's in there.
It's masked
Especially,
by the acidity
they're
and the flavor.
tiniest little slivers, and you know that you're giving them just a little bit more nutrients than, yeah. So I always did that. There were times that each of our kids go through like, being a little pickier than other times, and so I would do little things like that.
Working
just to,
it in,
work
working it in. Yeah, little bits by bits.
Yeah.
So I imagine that kind of similar to Katie and me falling in love with food and farming at Quail Hill, you probably also fell in love. You already had a relationship with food, but kind of fell in love with food probably a little bit more in harvesting your own food.
For sure.
At Quail Hill.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite things to harvest?
Definitely potatoes. So
I had a feeling that you were going to say that.
It's
potatoes.
usually people's number one kind of extraordinary initial harvesting
you
experience.
kind of don't realize, like, it's a root vegetable, it grows under the ground, but you don't actually know what the plant looks like. Like, and actually there might be weeds mixed amongst the potato plants, and so sometimes you'll watch the people that are new to the farm that year and you're like, oh no, that's a weed.
There's no potatoes.
There's no
under that
digging
one.
there. It's only
Right.
roots, no tubers.
But it's so fun to like actually have a pitchfork, and get down and sift through. In fact, what I like to do at Quail Hill is a lot of people leave potatoes. They don't realize that when they've pulled it out, a few more have fallen off the plant. So I always I'll say glean through the potatoes to make sure that we don't have any wasted ones before I start going to new plants.
Our first, actually, we don't even grow potatoes here because well, for a few,
For the
reasons.
potato
The
beetles?
Colorado yes, we have the
Yeah.
most virulent variety of Colorado potato beetle in the country out here because of our long history of growing potatoes. And I mean, like, entomologists come from all over the place to like study our Colorado potato beetle.
Like ours fly.
Yeah.
But nowhere, they have evolved to
and we
be
have
that and nowhere else. So it's
multiple
really
generations
highly
in a
evolved.
season. I mean, you go to other places and it's like kind of an issue, but here it's just such an issue. So Katie and I were a little scarred from that. But those really, really long beds of potatoes that we were digging into November on Town Lane, the year that we were apprentices, and just walking. We were using antiquated equipment. But just
Like legs.
like legs, fingers, buckets. I mean,
Like I just remember running buckets for hours.
Yeah.
Literally
Hours of
running
buckets.
through the field
Yeah.
and bringing buckets back. I mean, it was not the most efficient system, you're right.
No, I mean, in the way that, well, and you know, experiences like that have made us do things like get wagons.
Oh my God, wheels. Who knew?
Yeah, so that was one of the last things I remember doing in the field that season, was just walking miles and miles of 5-gallon buckets of potatoes out to the headlands of those fields.
We're growing potatoes in our children's outdoor
Oh, you
classroom.
are.
And I
Okay.
spotted a few. I was like, oh man, the Colorado potato beetles are really having a time with them, but I'm just gonna peek in and see what's going on.
Yeah.
What kind of potatoes are they? What's happening? We're gonna harvest them soon. And I just gently brushed off the soil from the very shoulders of them. And they were this like gorgeous ruby red, thin-skinned,
Love
new
it.
red potato. And they're the
Yeah,
best.
they melt in your mouth. The potatoes out here are the best potatoes I've ever eaten. Like
They
there's
love
just
the soil
something
here.
Yeah, look
about
out,
the
Idaho.
flavor
Yeah.
of these potatoes. There's nothing like it.
I mean, yeah, there's a reason people grew them here for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
You know, such a
Compatible with our soils, those
Yeah.
silty, loamy soils. Okay, but then other people ask, like, are the vegetables more flavorful? We're a
100%.
farm by the sea.
Yeah,
We are.
right.
I can smell the salt is in my
Yep.
nostrils right now. But do you think that imparts flavor, like terroir of vegetables, just as you would have of wine or anything?
Definitely. And as you know, we've moved to California during the school year. So one thing that's really interesting, every time that we come back, we're like, the greens, they taste so much more flavorful and pungent and just like
heartier?
alive. And wouldn't necessarily say heartier, just like a burst of flavor in your mouth. When you have arugula from my box, usually you'll have like a bag of arugula. In fact, here's a bag probably right here. The peppery, just the pungent flavors. You don't get that as much. Your greens out here are just spectacular.
have worked hard for
Let's
it.
try. Well,
Yeah.
we're good at growing
To-
baby
okay.
greens now. I mean,
we've
this
worked
time
hard
of
to
year, I
get
don't
good
know how
at it, but-
spicy this is going to be, but much like we talked about, like the heat really kicks up the spice of the brassicas.
Although we're still picking them so
Wow.
young.
Really spicy.
Comes on.
Yeah.
Here it comes. Oh, there we are.
Yeah.
So Amanda, before we were sitting down today, she said, I wonder what it's like. Like, Julie's bi-coastal. I wonder what it's like. I'm also native Californian. What is it like? What are the differences in food trends right now? The literal vegetables themselves, the seasonality.
Also the carrots. Like I don't like their carrots as much. They're again not as flavorful. Probably because the ground isn't dealing with temperature fluctuations like you are in the fall when most carrots, at least here, are harvested. I guess in the summer too, but
But they started in cool soil.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So the carrots, but then like they have the berries and the fruit and, that the warm temperatures really produce great berries.
What are those a couple of your favorite things of being like West Coast based for food? Fruit. And
Yeah, definitely berries.
Yeah.
Yeah, berries. Yeah, I mean, even the apples here. You had some milk pill apples even recently in the market, and Dan was like, "Get me some of those milk pill apples." Like, we just don't get apples like that.
Which is incredible because those are last season's
That's
apples.
what I
They're-
kept saying. What did they store them
Well,
in?
the Halsey
How?
family is like on the cutting edge. Well, I mean, they've been farming here for 13 generations, and they're on the cutting edge with Cornell for post-harvest handling and longevity extension. So I think that they store them in refrigerated, oxygen-free environments.
Yeah, right. There were no bruises. They were crunchy. They were crisp. Usually by the end of a season of apples, you expect to kind of bite in and not get much bite back. But those were just like crunch.
An unbelievable
Yeah.
job. Yeah, it's one of the cool things about being a part of this farming community is that there are, our colleagues have been, some of them have been doing it, their families have for 400 years.
Yeah.
So there's quite a bit of expertise to tap into to learn how other people are doing it and have been doing it for centuries.
Yeah, that must be really nice. You guys have access to those other farmers or growers or winemakers that you can have those kind of conversations with because they're working the land in a same but different way than the way you are.
And
the scale is different.
Yeah.
Right? Like we can pick up we know them. We could, we have a roster of 100 growers around us, so we could pick up the phone and call them. It's not corporatized or commercialized to the scale of they're in the fields and they know what's going on, or they're one click away from it. And so there's also in agriculture, there's this free exchange of knowledge and encouragement and support that people have always asked us through the years, like, is this a highly competitive space?
Very
There
collaborative.
are three
Opposites,
CSA.
right.
It's the
Right.
you
Well,
must
because you know
share.
the farmers out here, so you know how everyone is. It feels like making it in agriculture is so difficult anyway that even if someone gave you a list of all the answers on paper, it would still take tremendous hard work, tenacity, and luck to make it work, even if you had all the answers. And so it's been great out here how warmly Katie and I were welcomed when we started almost 20 years ago. And now that we're not even the new kids on the block anymore, there are many farmers
and
who are
you've
younger
grown
than we
so
are.
many of your own farmers over the years.
Our favorite crop, besides garlic.
Yeah, and they're doing amazing things. Mostly fruits and vegetables, but I had a conversation with an apprentice the other day, and he's particularly interested in beekeeping and wants to understand how a community farm works and wants to understand how to grow crops, but sees their future as it relates to agriculture, but in a different field, beekeeping.
Love it.
What's going on we're sitting here in you pick your own flower field, but what's going on with locally grown cut flowers in Southern California? Can you find them?
Yeah, you can. There are some. And actually, similar to what you have done, there's a lot of dried flowers. I think the market for dried flowers is really interesting to me right now, just because, we're in this time when a lot of the brands that we partner with at Feed, we host a lot of events. And sometimes they say, we don't want the waste of actual flowers. Like, it just doesn't feel
It feels
sustainable.
really weird
It
to
does.
throw them away.
Or even like a wedding. So dried flowers are such an amazing opportunity to enjoy that flower for months and years to come. So I love, actually, that's one of the things I like to give as a housewarming gift is dried flowers. Yeah. In like a beautiful bowl or vase, like, I think it's really special.
One of our farmers named them forever flowers in the market, but it is one of the magical things about it, that I have some in my house from a year ago.
Yeah, and they still look the
and
same.
they
I mean,
look
they
great.
slightly, sometimes if they're by a window, they fade a little. But
I had guests last weekend, so I filled my house with flowers. It was like I went overboard. It was like I was having a wedding reception in my house. It was like a
Moments
arrangement
everywhere.
there's moments all over in the bathroom and on the coffee table, and then there's the other one, and they're just peeking up from the bookcase. They're just
Well, look what's going on
I know.
around us. Like,
There's a
I
lot of
can't
beautiful
hold back.
flowers.
And then I went to the coolers and I'll just grab a few bouquets just to be sure, and that got home and it was just a little out of control. But then yesterday was day 10 of them, and I had to take them out, and it's this kind of gut-wrenching thing of having a paper bag and just like stuffing them in, and once they're passed. And I think in our first year of farming, we didn't even grow flowers because of this idea that within food there's a place, well, particularly with us because we're vertically integrated, there's a place for all the food. The big ones go to the kitchen, and the perfect medium ones go for retail, and like the ones that are great but maybe are a little funny shaped go to CSA, and ones that are really weird go to our chickens. And so there's a place for everything. But in the world of flowers, the only point is perfection. So if there are a couple of petals missing, it's garbage. And as soon as they start to wilt, it's not like they have another life where a cucumber that gets too big, we just juice it, or something that gets a little squishy, you just cook it. That's not so for flowers, and so then that's like a little bit stressful. Our flower farmers are so good about it, and we've gotten good about, our crew of our crew that manages the flower program, but there's a stress about it that
I saw you have a flower arranging workshop this weekend. That looks fun.
There is such an interest in flower. I think we saw it happen in COVID, where people were looking for like any moment of like affordable luxury that they could have, bringing joy into their home. And then we started developing our flower program because apprentices that were coming here with the specific intention of wanting to become flower farmers. And that was a new trend too. And so then also though, the margin on selling a bouquet of flowers, it's like that $25 extra add-on to the basket is phenomenal in the farm stand. So there's a couple different
flowers
reasons.
are also light, like they're not as heavy as hauling potatoes out of the field.
Right.
And another thing is, if you're a new farmer and you maybe don't have potable water or a place to wash and pack your vegetables, there's not a food safety concern with flowers. So there are all of these reasons why, if you're a small grower on a quarter of an acre, you could kind of make a living doing
super
that.
high value crop.
So it makes sense that people are so interested in it.
And I pick your own too is so fun. It's something that I do. Like, do you have shishito peppers right now or not yet?
Yes.
Yeah,
they're out there. Yeah.
Because I usually wait that time of year. It's like you'll see me out there a lot, because that's like what I like to do after the end of a long day is head to the fields and pick shishito peppers. But also the flowers. For me, it's like after sitting on my computer, I just want to be out in these fields and pick these flowers, or harvest herbs or vegetables.
To have the tangible
Well,
experience.
that's such a gregue, because you're so ingrained and embedded in this like real food outdoors, but you are spinning and creating this extraordinary world for people who are both, hands in the dirt people, but also people who've never set foot in a farm field, who are experiencing food through feed. So what is that like to kind of have birthed and steward this digital community?
So tell us the origin story of Feed, how it came about, where you are now.
Yeah, no problem. So, it actually was inspired by Quail Hill and Amber Waves. As you know, we had that conversation on that wagon over there. But, Dan and I had moved out here from the city, and we were so excited to meet people like you and get literally our hands dirty in the fields. And we were missing the energy and the vibe and the restaurants and even the farmers markets of the city, but that food community. And the winters here are long and cold and windy, and when I challenged myself with only cooking from the CSA boxes and harvesting all of our greens, and I would go into the Quail Hill greenhouses with the kids with children's scissors, okay, be careful, these are very precious, and that is what we ate. I realized that I kind of couldn't do it by myself. I needed to connect with other people who were eating in a similar way. And of course I could chat with you and say, what are you making with all these sweet potatoes or squash or parsnips?
Orange time of year.
Yeah, carrots.
But what's the inspiration?
Yeah.
And how
so
do you
on
feed
Instagram,
off of each other?
we basically were able to connect with people who were cooking in a similar way. So that's kind of how it started. People often say that when you launch a business, there's usually something missing in your life that you say I need this. And for me, it was I need to connect with people who are cooking food like the food that I'm cooking. And sure, you can log into any website or go on Google or ChatGPT these days and type in the ingredients you have, and it can spit back a recipe. But getting inspiration from other people's real kitchens was something that was really inspiring to me. And it was cool because at the beginning I was actually seeking out farmers and following a bunch of farmers and watching how they were cooking with the same fruits, or mostly vegetables, but we did have a lot of apples at that time of year. And yeah, that's where the inspiration started. And so really just grew a community of people on Instagram first, focused on that as a way to both put out content of what I was cooking. So back then it was literally me cooking and coming up with a recipe, and then Dan would come home. He's a radiologist. He doesn't practice anymore, but at the time he would be coming home from the hospital, and I would kind of have the dinner ready, and we'd have a light box because, as you know, it gets dark at 4
4:30,
p.m. And he would take the photos of whatever food I was making, and back then it was just still images on Instagram. So, you know, everything had to be so perfect. And that's actually what I love about the evolution of social media right now. We were always connecting, like I said. I personally was connecting with the creators who were cooking food like my food. And then eventually we got bigger and we started connecting other cooks with people that were cooking like them, or bakers, or we have a vegan account, we have a gluten-free account, we have a chocolate account, we have a cocktails account. So connecting like-minded communities within food is something that we always wanted to do. And it's been really special to now have, you know, grown a business around it and connected with brands who really see the value in what we're doing and bringing people together. Now, like I said, we host a lot of events in the real world is really special, because the creator economy it's really interesting. As I was saying, with social media, it's evolved so much lately. Like, you know, it's all about the personalities. And I even know just from our conversations over the years with your farm and your own social media presence, like, and we're having this conversation right now, you have to put yourself out there as a brand and as a business. And it's not just about growing the vegetables and having a CSA and running a market and having an apprentice program and doing all the great work that you guys do at the food pantry. You also have to create content. Now you're content creators. So the cool thing about social media and the evolution is that right now you can just talk to the camera and just be real as a person. And it's not about the old days of Instagram where the food and the photo had to be perfect. It's like, it just has to be authentic. It has to be personality forward, and people are looking to connect with like-minded people and, you know, share ideas and collaborate in those ways. So I think that's one thing that's hard, I know, as a business when you're running a farm and managing all of the employees that you all manage, and also having to create content. But in the other sense, you just have to be authentic and tell your story, and people will really appreciate that.
I think something Amanda and I have thought for years is exactly that. How can we are literally creating things all the time, to look at, to feed people, there's biodiversity all around us that we're helping create each season. And the stories that unfold within that are funny and precious and invigorating and all these things. And we have been farming for so long that we can recall the stories. But now that we have trained more farmers and we have a farm manager and people are in the fields doing it, we are really excited about sharing these stories and being the voice of the farm and explaining, like, well, let's talk about romaine and let's really talk about it. Like, romaine might seem like, oh my gosh, your Caesar salad, boring of the day from the 1980s, but why are we growing it now, and the variety change, and as it relates to climate change, and getting into the nitty gritty from the farmer's point of view and the vegetable perspective point of view is what we're really excited about right now. Like, let's get excited and talk about radishes. And let's do it for 20 minutes, and let's dive deep, and let's taste them, and let's get into it. And let's talk about what it takes to grow a radish. And I think, you know, when you're talking about that, you're having the lanes of, you know, the vegan and the chocolate and all of these different micro communities within the feed community. You are a super highway. Feed is a super highway of food information, but you're so smart to create these micro communities and lanes so that
if I'm
people
looking
can
for a
feel
cocktail recipe,
really
then I can just
and it's accessible.
It's your little cheat or shortcut to just don't have to go through all of the content in the world to get.
And what we've really always been about too are finding the people that are experts in what they make. So if it's someone who makes cocktails, or if it's someone who's great at baking. And sure, of course, there are people that over time have become, you know, very well-known bloggers or a very well-known presence on Instagram, and we still want to promote them. But it's so fun to find these up-and-coming people. These people, just like you're doing. You're like birthing farmers, right? You're finding these people who are passionate about the land, about, you know, everything that we need to do to take care of this amazing planet that we live on. And you're actually teaching them how to do that and to launch them off into the world. And they have these businesses. So we're hopeful that we too can find people who are making amazing food and coming out with these really cool recipes that like high protein. Okay, so right now everything is about high protein.
That's what's going on. High protein. I just saw it in Froyo.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
like, let's just get it in.
Yeah.
How do we breed it into this rat?
Yeah, right.
That's for another time. But yes. Okay, so let's talk about that.
Yeah, so like cottage
Pretty
cheese,
sure you
right?
sneak this into a bolognese. That's how you do it.
Okay.
So like cottage cheese is definitely having a moment. Like I don't know if you're like selling. In fact, actually, we bought cottage cheese here yesterday, but you know, it's been crazy. So like these trends, you were saying earlier, like the impact of social media on an industry. There have been, of course, like viral recipes. I mentioned and that wasn't as viral as something like all the cottage cheese, high protein, like cheesecake recipes that are going around right now.
Well, so what are your favorite, or like what are some hot things that are going around right now
that are viral that I actually make? Okay, so here's one. Like we have Trending Tuesday. I don't know if you've noticed, but over the last 5 years, we have had a Trending Tuesday recipe for 5 years, and we teamed up with Alexa What's for Dinner. She used to be a full-time member of our team, and now she's a freelancer, and she has created a recipe each week based on pretty much like what viral trend is going around, and if there isn't one, we kind of try to come up with one. And so sometimes I watch them for the first time on our feed because I'm not as actively involved in that aspect of the business as I was in the past. So I saw she takes bacon, she throws it into a Dutch oven, just like piece, and just kind of lets it sit there, stirs it, so all the fat melts and it basically fries in its own fat. And I was like, are you kidding me? And it's like perfectly crispy, crunchy bacon. And I'm thinking, no way. This is like, there's no way this works. Like, because bacon is kind of like annoying to cook. Or you can put it in the oven. And I have a friend who in LA, she, you know, had an incident with like the bacon grease, and like it's dangerous. You cook them in the oven and you know, on the stove if you're doing it and flipping it.
It takes forever.
It takes forever.
Oh, God.
So it's like, this is like you throw it in a Dutch oven and you stir it a couple of times.
You just toss it in, you just move it around.
I made it this morning for Vance for breakfast. Like, so that's like a trend where you would see it and think, what? That's ridiculous. But in the end, it really, really works. So I kind of love learning something as simple as cooking bacon in a new way. So that's what I love about social media. Like, you know, if you fill your feed with educational content, with food content, even Vance, my son, he's always, you know, he's really into sports. So, and the stock market. So when he's scrolling on his feed, it's actually really interesting information that he's getting, and I don't have as much anxiety as a parent that he's just sitting there wasting time scrolling on his feed. I still like to like control the amount of time he is on social media, but I think it depends on what you are consuming as your content, and if it's educational, I'm sort of all for that.
Right. Okay, so let's talk about food as education, but food as entertainment.
Yeah.
And then where that crosses over. I mean, because something has to be almost like viral or sensationalized to get traction. I mean, it's not like wonky food education. It's fun, it's snappy, it's personality driven.
So really, like, it's the first few seconds of any video. You've probably noticed it, I'm sure, on your Amber Waves Instagram feed. You've probably have videos that have either gone viral or had like, you know, way more views than another video. And you're thinking like, what is it about that video? Like, why did so many people watch that and connect with it? It's really just that opener, but there's so many things right now on Instagram and TikTok, because they actually have, I think, helped to make each one better. Yeah. They've elevated. So there's 3 things that we focus on. We put out these best practices all of the time. And it's not just what the visual is, like that's one of the most important things, but also what the text on the screen is. We've mentioned high protein before. So like if we were gonna make like pancakes, it might say like 21 grams of protein, or whatever it is, protein pancakes, or 3 ingredient protein pancakes, or like super easy, whatever. Then the voiceover would say something like, I bet you've never had this. So, and then the caption says something a little bit different. So you have 4 different ways to communicate with the audience: the visual, the text on the screen, the voiceover, and the caption. So you want to make sure that you're not saying the same thing in all of those, because it's a search engine now. All of the social networks like Instagram and TikTok, they're like Google always was. So it's all about keywords. So you want to figure out how many different ways you can say, like, make this recipe with zucchini. Anyway, so that's sort of how, like, so in terms of entertainment, yes, the entertainment like that, it could just be shock value at the very beginning of a video, but the shock value doesn't just have to come from the visual. It can also come from just those words on the screen or what the voiceover says.
Right, and that can be the hook. I mean, like when you're saying protein, and if protein, and if you're thinking about protein and your feed's feeding you protein things in all parts of your life,
and I'm thinking about protein. It's in front.
She's thinking about protein right now. I know. So
this is like the 5th time I've talked about it today. I didn't even bring it up.
Yeah. Exactly, because it's in the ether. Yeah. It's not in the box so much as the ether. But what you're going to pair this with what protein? So can we talk about family and kids and food and we know your children well, and we've known them. Vance had his first birthday party here. But the way that you approach parenting and the way that you have taught your kids about food through tangible experience at the farm, in the kitchen, at the table, for families that don't have access to coming to a farm to either purchase directly from a farmer or to pick their own food. So maybe they're shopping at a farmer's market. How do you, what have been your successes with your kids in getting them to eat as many vegetables as possible, or at least exposing them to the backstory of the vegetable, and what's your recipe for success there?
I think for me, it was obviously having you all across the street from Amagansett School, where my kids went to elementary school, and you know how many field trips they came to over here, and also all of the time they spent with me. I mean, Vance thought that he was born in the fields of Quail Hill. He actually didn't know he was born in a hospital.
He thought his birth story was in that soil?
Yes, yes. So
I mean,
that
like
was
Cabbage
in some
Patch.
ways. Right. I said, well, I know I brought you out there very early. I probably, like, you know, I made a roast chicken actually the night that I came home from the hospital, and I only stayed in the hospital for like 9 hours with him because I was like, I got to get home to the girls, and then I just was like, I can make dinner. It's fine. But
Katie tried to, 6 hours after Katie gave birth. She got out of bed and said, the day we opened this market, Katie gave birth, and she said, okay, I'm just gonna get dressed to go to our opening party. And I said, hun, I don't think so.
Yeah.
But you do feel like after you've done that thing, you can do roasting a chicken or hosting a party is no big deal.
Yep, totally.
Right, no big deal.
Okay, so sorry.
So back to the kids, and I think having a relationship with either a farmer, so yes, going to a farmer's market, and a lot of people do say like farmer's markets are expensive. I think you can have a real relationship with a farmer. You can walk up to any farmer as a customer at any farm stand that you go to in the country and say, we're on a tight budget. Do you have any seconds? Do you have anything that, like, should I come back at the end of the day? Like, what is a vegetable that's gonna like yield a big result?
And like, what's the greatest value on the table?
Yes.
That's that's such a great point, because as a farmer, you know, no one's laughing all the way to the bank as being a farmer, and you're there, and when people are critical of your prices, it's really hard because you're just charging what you have to like literally squeak by. And having so actually the people that are pushing back on price might really actually be your counterparts of people who are in your same boat of where times are pretty tight. So approaching it in that way.
let's talk about it and make a deal.
Right. Yeah. Or like or saying like, what are you enjoying from your farm right now? What are you cooking at home? Like learning from the people who are growing the food. And if you can't, I mean, having a garden, I grew up, my mom had a garden in the backyard. Like she would send me out before dinner and say like, go, you know, dig up some carrots. Like, I think having a little patch of land and teaching your kids, that's exciting. Like going from the seed to the sprout, you know, to the vegetable, to washing it and tasting it. And even if, I think also what I did is when my kids started eating food, I was lucky enough to be living out here and making dinner pretty much every night. And I just had a 1-cup food processor. So if I made I don't know, Indian food that night, and there were a lot of spices, I just didn't worry about it. I just put the potatoes and the chicken and the sauce and everything and some yogurt into their 1-cup food processor, and I gave it to them. So
They were eating what you were eating.
They ate what we ate every night. So whatever we ate, I just literally put it in there and added a little bit of water or milk or something, or broth.
To liquefy.
It when we were feeding them out of a spoon. So they never really had the opportunity. They tasted all of these flavors, and I think getting them in the kitchen is helpful too.
Yes.
That's really important, and letting them, or asking them what they want for dinner, you know, or like having, you know, they used to always scroll on our feed and remind me like, oh, you made this, can you make that again? Or, oh, that looks good. I mean, Chloe and May send me reels all the time, and they're like, make me this, you know, and like, that's great. You're telling me what you want. I'm happy to make it for you. Yeah.
And it's led by their choice.
Yeah.
Which usually means success.
Yeah.
Well, we really appreciate you so much. We didn't mention yet, though, that you are the chairman of the Amber Waves Farm Board of Directors, and you have been in that position for a long time and have supported us for a long time, and we are so grateful for that. So beyond friendship and mentorship, you provide a great service to this organization and to our community. So we are so grateful for that.
And really thrilled to have seen Feed grow, you know, from the wagon.
Yeah.
It just sprouted right up in Amagansett and
what-
has just become
how many
this
followers do you have on Instagram now?
extraordinary.
I'm so bad with knowing that information. I think we have
A lot. I remember you
Well,
told me,
millions.
you're like, Katie, we
Between
just surpassed the
TikTok-
recipe bank of the New York Times.
Yeah.
This is blowing up. And that was more than a decade ago. So let's just
I
put
think
it into
between
perspective.
Instagram and TikTok, we have close to 7 million followers. But we have like over 3 on TikTok and around 3+ on Instagram.
And those
It's
are,
amazing.
I think, back to your point of authenticity. You are so authentic, and Dan and your family, and you created something that people wanted to be a part of. And that was that you hit it at the right time, and it just grew and grew and grew from a really genuine place. And so we're happy to be a little part of that. Thank you.
Thank you for the inspiration.
Thanks.
And we'll see you in the field.
Yep. See you in the field.